Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're wading into some really difficult territory. We're looking at the life, the tragic death, and the aftermath surrounding Raekwon Elliott, who most people know as the rapper Stack Bundles.
Yeah, and for this one, we're really working with two very different kinds of information, aren't we? It's like we have two separate streams.
Exactly. What are those streams?
Well, first, you've got all the emotion, the talk within the hip-hop world,
Yeah.
the interviews, the speculation, discussions about loyalty, who is responsible, what should have happened.
Right, the cultural narrative.
And then, completely separate almost, you have the official documents, the police reports, the court records detailing the actual criminal investigation into his murder back in 2007.
So our goal here is to try and connect those dots, take the emotional story of blame and responsibility, and see how it lines up, or doesn't, with the cold facts of the justice system's findings.
Percent.
For anyone needing a quick refresher, Stack Bundles. He was just 24, a really promising rapper from Far Rockaway, Queens. He was tied in with Jim Jones's Bird Gang, also DJ Clue's Desert Storm Records. Big connection.
Huge potential.
And his murder on June 11, 2007, it just became this immediate symbol of potential cut short, a real what-if moment that forced a lot of uncomfortable questions about fame, the streets, and who looks out for who.
Mm-hmm. And because of his connection to Jim Jones, a major figure, naturally, the first place people looked was at him. The question became, was enough done to protect him?
Okay, let's unpack that conflict over responsibility, because it really dominated the conversation for a long time. Why specifically Jim Jones? What was the core argument against him?
It boiled down to resources, essentially. The feeling among some critics and peers was that Jones hadn't set up Stack Bundles and maybe others in Bird Gang, like Max B or Mel Matrix, financially, not enough to actually let them leave Far Rockaway, leave the dangers behind.
So the argument was they were famous, but maybe not secure?
Right. People like Jaha, another artist, spoke out suggesting they weren't getting paid properly, that they were still kind of forced to hustle or maintain ties to that environment just to get by, even with the record deals and the spotlight.
Okay, that's one side. But Jim Jones pushed back hard on that narrative, didn't he? Especially in that 2023 interview on Flip to Script.
Oh, absolutely. He didn't just deny neglecting them. He flipped it completely. He said the problem wasn't a lack of resources he offered, but their refusal to take them.
Refusal. What did he claim he offered?
This is where it gets really specific. Jones claimed he saw the writing on the wall, the danger. He said he literally offered to buy a brownstone in New Jersey, a whole house, for Stack, Max B, and Mel Matrix together. A way out.
Yeah.
And according to Jones, they all said no, turned it down flat, chose to stay in Far Rockaway.
But hang on. Jones also talked about the lifestyle, right? Private jets, tour buses, dropping serious cash on weekends.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands, he claimed, flying them to Miami, Atlanta, living it up.
So doesn't that kind of complicate his defense? If he's providing the trappings of success, the luxury, but they're still living in the same dangerous spot, isn't that maybe enabling the risk? Like giving them the fancy trips, but not insisting on the fundamental change needed for safety?
That's a really sharp point. It's a contradiction, isn't it? Jones likely felt he was being generous, showing them the good life, maybe thinking that exposure alone would be enough incentive.
But it wasn't structural.
Exactly. It was fleeting luxury versus a permanent safe base. And Jones himself pointed out the tragic irony. Despite all that spending on the experience of fame, the worst still happened. Mel Matrix got shot. Max B ended up with that long prison sentence.
Initially, 75 years later, reduced, but still devastating.
Right. And Stack Bundles was murdered. So Jones's own account shows the spending didn't prevent the outcomes he feared.
Which brings us to the timing. The immediate moments before his death. That adds another layer of just heartbreak.
It really does, because Jones also revealed this incredibly poignant detail. Despite all the talk of houses and big money lifestyle, Stack Bundles called him the night before he was killed.
For what?
Just for money. Cash. Not asking about the house deed, not about a flight somewhere. Just needed cash.
Wow. So if Jones is offering a brownstone, why is Stack calling for pocket money the night before? It seems dissonant.
It does. Jones said they planned to meet at the bank the very next morning. He was going to pull the money out for him then.
But Stack was killed before that meeting could happen.
Killed that same night. It makes the tragedy feel so immediate, not just about systems or choices over years, but about a few crucial hours.
It really highlights the complexity, doesn't it? Stack Bundles had this undeniable style, the furs, the confidence, and talent recognized by the biggest names. Kanye, Lil Wayne, Lupe Fiasco were all reportedly interested.
He had the It's factor.
He seemingly had the cosigns, the potential exit ramps, yet he stayed rooted in Far Rockaway. It suggests that maybe that neighborhood connection, that street identity, it provided something. Something deeper, maybe, than what money or even a house in Jersey could offer.
It really speaks to how powerful identity and belonging can be, sometimes even outweighing, obvious opportunity or safety. The truth here is probably murky. Maybe Jones did try to help, but maybe within a system that's inherently exploitative.
And maybe Stack needed a different kind of support. Or maybe he just truly didn't want to leave his roots, even if it meant rejecting that offer of a house.
It's that tangled web, isn't it? Loyalty, identity, circumstance, industry pressures, all converging.
Okay, so let's pivot now. Let's leave the kind of cultural debate and the who's to blame arguments for a moment. Let's look at the second set of sources, the legal side. How did the justice system actually handle the murder itself? High-profile victim, complex environment.
Well, initially it went about how you might expect in that kind of situation. The investigation hit roadblocks.
The code of silence.
Exactly. Limited witness cooperation, people not talking, standard challenges in many urban homicide cases. It wasn't solved quickly.
So what broke it open?
Yeah.
How did they get past that wall?
This is where it gets interesting from an investigative standpoint. The breakthrough didn't actually come directly from the Stack Bundles murder investigation.
Really? Where did it come from then?
It came from a totally separate, very high-profile incident, the shooting of some NYPD officers in July 2007, about a month after Stack's murder.
Wow, okay. So police are investigating an attack on their own officers.
And informants connected to that case started providing information, trying to get leverage, maybe make deals for themselves.
And that information pointed towards Stack's murder.
Precisely. These informants gave details that linked a suspect, someone apparently moving in overlapping circles, directly to the killing of Stack Bundles weeks earlier. It highlights how interconnected these things can be. Information about one crime often surfaces during the investigation of another.
That's quite a break. Relying on intel from a completely different case.
It shows the value of coordinating investigations, sharing information across different cases, especially when dealing with entrenched networks.
And just to underscore how dangerous this whole situation was, wasn't there another violent incident right around the time of the funeral?
Yes, absolutely. On June 18th, 2007, the very day of Stack Bundles' funeral, another individual who police believed was connected to the case was found shot dead.
Man, that just speaks volumes about the volatility. Street justice, retaliation, happening even as the official investigation is trying to get started.
It certainly painted a picture of the extreme risks surrounding everyone involved. But, okay, shifting to the legal process that followed the breakthrough.
Right. They have a suspect now, linked by informants. What happens next?
Well, charges were filed. It wasn't straightforward. There were multiple proceedings, appeals, things like that. But eventually, a retrial got underway in February 2009.
And how did that go?
Apparently, the evidence presented, likely heavily reliant on that informant testimony and whatever corroborating details police found, must have been pretty compelling. The jury didn't take long.
How long?
Just 2.5 days of deliberation, which, for a murder trial, suggests they found the case fairly clear-cut.
And the verdict?
On March 16, 2009, the defendant was found guilty, convicted of aggravated murder.
And a sentence.
The maximum possible. Life in prison with no chance of parole. So, a definitive end, legally speaking.
Okay, a conviction. But do the sources give any clear sense of the motive? Why was Stack Bundles targeted? Robbery? Something else?
The public records aren't crystal clear on a single motive. It seems like it was likely a mix of things simmering in that environment.
His chest.
Things like jealousy over his success, maybe professional rivalries within the music scene or local crews, possibly just personal beefs that escalated. It suggests it wasn't just a random street crime, but something tied to his position and the conflicts within the world he was still very much a part of.
So the danger wasn't external. It was internal to that circle.
That seems to be the implication. Looking back at the whole process, the criminal justice side really underscores a few key things.
Like what?
Well, the importance of connecting dots between cases, information sharing, and, controversially but undeniably, the huge role confidential informants play in cracking violent crime cases where people won't talk openly.
And for anyone listening, maybe trying to navigate similar worlds.
It's a stark reminder of the immense difficulty, the sheer danger, of trying to maintain deep roots and credibility in a high-risk environment while also reaching for mainstream commercial success. The two worlds often clash tragically.
So wrapping this deep dive up, it's a story full of contradictions, isn't it? You have Jim Jones saying he offered a way out, the community saying he didn't do enough. You have Stack Bundles choosing, it seems, loyalty or identity over maybe a safer path offered.
And then you have the justice system finding a way to solve the crime, not through the front door, but through a side channel, through information networks.
The ultimate tragedy, though, is just the loss. Stack Bundles' potential was enormous. Everyone agrees on that.
Absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
He got caught in that perfect storm you mentioned earlier, the pressures of poverty, the specific economics of the music industry at the time, the powerful pull of street culture. It created a situation where maybe escaping cleanly just wasn't feasible, or perhaps wasn't even desired in the way outsiders might assume.
Which leaves us with a really tough final thought. If Jim Jones's account is even partially true, that he offered talent support, money, luxury, even a literal house to escape, and it still wasn't enough to pull Stack Bundles away from the environment that killed him, it forces you to ask, what actually can break those ties? If money and a physical escape route aren't the answer, what is? What does that tell us about how deeply identity and belonging can shape our choices, maybe even more than opportunity?
That's the lingering question, isn't it? Something for all of us to think about.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for this deep dive. Join us next time.